Zimbabwe A will play visiting English county side Durham in the second three-day match at Takashinga Sports Club today. So Durham lead the two-match series 1-0 after winning the opener by 9 wickets inside 2 days. So Zimbabwe A will be looking to improve on their batting against the more fancied English side, with players like Jonathan Campbell and Brian Bennett looking to build on their encouraging half centuries from that first three-day match. So that match starts at 10 a.m. and it will be at Takashinga Sports Club. Up next, we are joined by Zimbabwe cricketing legend, one of the greatest batters to ever come out of Zimbabwe. He is now leading the way in terms of what's happening at Zimbabwe Cricket. He is the Zimbabwe Cricket Director of Cricket. It's a mouthful, actually. Hamilton Masakadza. Hamilton, good morning, and thank you for joining us on Morning Rush.
Morning, Tich. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Lots happening in terms of our cricket in Zimbabwe. Right now, we do have Durham. They're playing our Zimbabwe A side at Takashinga. You know, they've been here since last week. Obviously, not the best performance in that first three-day match last week, but looking at it, what was your assessment of how our Zimbabwe A boys did, and maybe some of the areas you'd want to see them improve on as we head into the second three-day match this morning?
Yeah, obviously a little bit disappointing in the first game. The batters just not really coming to the fore like we expected there. I mean, the boys have scored quite a few runs in the recently ended Logan Cup, and the boys are really in good form, and really expected a little bit more. But obviously still a lot of youth in those ranks, still a lot of learning to be done. Just a little bit of short selection and a little bit of reading situations better. But we're looking forward to a much better one in the second one, and we're looking forward to seeing what they do at Takashinga.
Durham, obviously a top English county side coming to Zimbabwe. How significant is that in terms of the growth and development, especially of some of those younger players who are still trying to cut their teeth through the Zimbabwe A side, and obviously some of them have already made their first team debuts?
Yeah, obviously A-side cricket is huge for us. Like you mentioned, it's basically the stepping stone or the level just below international cricket. So the more that these guys can play games at this sort of level, the better they'll be prepared to play international cricket when they do step up. So the partnership with the county sides has been really brilliant, especially Durham. They keep coming out year in, year out during their pre-season. So that allows our boys to be exposed to slightly better competition. And like you mentioned, we basically look to use the A side there. As you'll have noticed, it's not really the established national team players that are playing, but the guys just below them. So it's part of their preparation, and it's part of getting them better and getting them more prepared for international cricket.
You highlighted this growing partnership, not just with Durham, but with several English county sides. And I know after these three-day matches, they're going to be taking part in the domestic T20 competition. I think it's the first time since they returned a couple of years ago that they'll be playing in our T20 competition. Maybe can you tell us more about that domestic T20 and what having a county side playing in that tournament will do for our game?
Yeah, so again, it's just mentioning that slightly higher level of competition. We're fortunate that Durham agreed to stay back for our T20s. What we normally have is we just have them play a few games against the A side, where be it three-day cricket or one-day cricket. But this time around, we managed to get them to stay back, which is really good for us. So a few more of our cricketers at a provincial first-class level will get exposure to this sort of level. I think it will just go a long way in showing them where they need to be as well, and what sort of this high level entails. And yeah, we initially had 3 counties lined up this season, but for one reason or the other two didn't manage to make it. So we're looking forward to having a couple more next year as well. But yeah, like I said, Durham will be taking part in our T20 comp this year, and also to try and cater for the guys at work like you guys. We've also added a few night games there, so people can come out and watch some of the cricket after work as well.
Speaking about the night games, that's something that, you know, we're learning to sort of enjoy as Zimbabwe cricket fans. I think it was only during the Zim Afro T10 last year that we started witnessing night matches, and, you know, we're starting to sort of adapt to that. And I want to touch on that. That was a big success, the Zim Afro T10, so many different international players coming through. In terms of the T20 format, I know in our domestic cricket, we've seen players from Pakistan, I think West Indies, and even England as well coming through and taking part. Are there any plans going forward to make our T20 competition more international in terms of the players? I know you highlighted that you were trying to get more county sides coming through, but in terms of making it maybe as competitive as maybe the SA T20, the Caribbean T20, and all the major leagues, what plans do you guys have, obviously, going forward to try and make our T20 competition have more pizzazz, if I could call it that?
Yeah, so this is just our domestic T20 comp. We actually have plans in place to launch a franchise-based T20 as well, which will pretty much be along the same lines as what the Zim Afro T10 was. So that will definitely have a lot more international stars, and it will be franchise-based, as I mentioned, and it won't be run the same way we run our local one. It will be, like you mentioned, more or less along the lines of the T10 or along the lines of the SA20. I think it's important for all the countries to have their own sort of comps. I mean, it just adds to that level of the game as well. Once you start having a lot more international players in the changing rooms, the younger guys get to learn a lot more and get to learn a lot faster, because they get to share cricket knowledge with the teammates in their changing room, and they also get to also face and bowl against people that they normally wouldn't have bowled at from the other changing rooms as well. So it's really important that we get that going, just like we did with the T10, and plans are definitely in place to get that launched as well.
This year, next year?
This year.
This year, all right. Okay. I'll live in it, yeah. I know this is the third year that Durham are in Zimbabwe. We've had indications as well that Zimbabwe is set to tour England next year, I think for the first time in more than 2 decades. In the past, our relations between maybe Zimbabwe cricket and the England and Wales Cricket Board haven't been so great, but we've seen that improve over the last couple of years, especially with the county sides coming through, and now Zimbabwe getting to play the England side next year. What or who do you think, do we put this down to, this thawing off relations, if I was to coin it as that?
So it's a big credit to the chairman and the board for starting those talks and starting to push towards renewing that relationship with England. Also, the MD has also been very instrumental in that. Obviously, when they go and have their big meetings at ICC level, those are some of the things that they'll be discussing sort of how to get this going. And also, big credit to our former national coach, Davy Houghton, as well. He was also very instrumental with his links from the time he spent in England with the county teams as well as at ECB level as well. So I'll put it down to those three. A lot of hard work has gone into it, a lot of discussions, and as I mentioned, and it's really exciting to really see it come to fruition that we're starting to play those guys again, and especially going to play a test match in England. I mean, that's something that never happened even during the time that I played. So it's really exciting that that's come back, and we're really looking forward to it.
But I think when we had a T10, we saw you guys also launch an exchange program with Lahore calendars, with some players from Pakistan coming through here, and I think there was a plan for some to go there. In terms of the relationship with the ECB, is there any plans for maybe some of our players to go play for county sides, or just have some kind of exchange programs and not just have the counties come their side?
So to start with, in terms of the exchange program, what we're going to try to do this season is to sort of second a few of our A-side sort of under 25 emerging players to some clubs in the UK, and have them play a little bit of club cricket this season. But at the same time, while they're there, on top of playing that club cricket, we're going to organize for them to play some games against some county second teams as well, which will add to the experience, and which will add to playing at a sort of a different level. So we're looking to have anything between 25 and 30 players in the UK with clubs, but directly under us, because we'll then be organizing games against some county B sides as well.
Absolutely fantastic. I remember you were a prolific batter in your prime. We saw you highlighted the performance we saw in the Logan Cup. I think 36 centuries. I think there was a triple century from Antum Nakvi. There were 4 double centuries. I think we even saw Brian Bennett, one of the rising stars, just 20, scoring another one. In terms of then helping those players translate that, first primarily to, these A-side games against the likes of Durham and then to international cricket, what are you guys as Zimbabwe doing to try and capacitate our players so that, we don't just see these big scores in the Logan Cup, but it can translate against better competition?
Yeah, so it's like you mentioned, it's only those A-side games and that sort of competition against slightly better opposition, because obviously the step up from provincial cricket to international cricket is a little bit, that gap is a little bit too big. So what we try to do is to try to bridge that gap, firstly with our own regional competitions, where we sort of cut the 5 domestic teams into 2 teams. So it's basically a strength versus strength approach. And then obviously secondly with these A-side games as well. And especially against other full member nations. So the more they play against people that are sort of at that level, as I mentioned earlier, the more they'll learn and the quicker that they'll improve. So we're looking forward to A games against South Africa as well this year, and A games against Sri Lanka as well. So we're constantly trying to make sure that that A side remains active, and the more that they can play, the quicker they learn and the quicker they get the experience that they need to play at international level.
All right, before I let you go, obviously the domestic T20, Durham are taking part. Maybe just give us details on when we can expect it to kick off, and maybe for fans, you mentioned there will be night games. Are we going to be paying anything? Is there going to be entertainment? What's lined up for the domestic T20 in terms of when it's kicking off and how we can catch the action?
I think in terms of the entertainment and the rest of it, it's still something that we're still finalizing. But the fans can definitely expect a good experience when they come out. The games will start on the 3rd and the final will be on the 9th. And I think the biggest thing right now is to really re-emphasize that people can come in after work. They're not going to miss out. We're going to have night games, so people can really look forward to that. And everyone can come out in their numbers and enjoy some good cricket.
All right, you heard it for yourselves from the horse's mouth. Zimbabwe Cricket Director of Cricket, Hamilton Masakadza, just telling us about what's happening in terms of the efforts that the association has been making to grow and develop the game. One of the big things that's happening, obviously, we do have that second 3-day match between Zimbabwe A and Durham. That's starting at 10 a.m. at Takashinga Sports Club. But we're also excited, especially for people like me and Andy, who spend most of our day at work. We can get to have a cold beer at HRS Sports Club, catching domestic T20 cricket, and there's a lot of exciting young talent that's coming up.
But before Hamilton goes, Hamilton, I'm just going to tell you, you raise our blood temperatures when you guys do so well, and then you crash us down when you let us go in the last second. So do better. I will always support you guys. Always will we support Zimbabwe cricket. Well done, you guys. Well done. Keep it up.
Just thanks, guys.
All right, thank you very much, Hamilton, for joining us, and we'll be looking forward to the domestic T20 and everything that's lined up in terms of cricket and for fans throughout 2024.
Konapo, Ipapo pa ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294.